this is Jasmine, and I don't know about you guys, but when I was younger, I used to love to make sugar cookies for the holidays. So, like the ones that you cut out and you put like colored sugar sprinkles and stuff on to decorate. And there's so much nostalgia for those for me. And so I was at work where I do most of my drawing and doodling and stuff nowadays. And I just really wanted to paint some nostalgic sugar cookies. And it was such a simple process, and I think they turned out so cute that I thought I would share it with you guys as like kind of a tutorial and walk you through exactly how I made these sugar cookies. So I hope that you enjoy that. Day says hello. And yeah, enjoy this tutorial. I start out with a sketch, and you can make your sugar cookies any shape you want. And then I go on to mixing the color. So for the base of these sugar cookies, I used only one color, and that's yellow ochre, and I just layered it up in different ways. So you can see me there adding a bunch of water to it. And then even then, when I put it down, it was still more dark than I wanted for the base coat because I wanted to layer it up a few times to get different textures and stuff. So as I'm painting, I'm adding more water to this star, and I'm using gouache, by the way, but you could do this in watercolor as well. And then when I move on to the other shapes, because the star was dark and this is a water medium, I just keep dipping back to the star to get more color onto my paintbrush. And I'm also periodically dipping in some more water to keep areas wet. And I'm moving pretty quickly to make sure that the blend is fairly even, but I'm not worrying a lot about the blend being super even because they are cookies and they're going to have a textured surface. I wasn't sure exactly if this was going to turn out how I hoped it would, but in the end, I think it turned out really nice. This is the first time I've painted cookies like this, or anything quite like this, by the way, so you're kind of learning with my first learning. I'm sorry for the shaky cam. It gets fixed in a little bit. I'm holding my camera, my phone actually camera, by hand because I'm doing this at work. And the purple you see is like a purple clipboard I have it taped down to. And I'm using washi tape to tape down the sides. I really like this washi tape with the stripes on it because I can give myself an extremely exact outline border. And then I go in with a little bit less watered down of still the yellow ochre, same color, and I'm painting the edges. So you want to keep this on one side, the opposite side of your light source for your cookies to give them more of a three-dimensional look. And I also go into like the little, like there's little divots and stuff on the other side that I put a little bit of shadow on as well to give it some dimension, but I definitely don't put very much on the side that the light is coming from. I just outline everything, and then I'm going to be blending it out a little bit as well to add some of that cookie texture. You can see me doing that here. And I tried this in a couple different ways. So for these ones, you can see they've still got sort of a hard line around the edge where I first put the gouache down because it's dried a little bit. And I could blend that out more. I actually took a little bit of paint to blend the one out on the bell a little bit more. And then later on, I go in like with this star and I blend the edge out right after I put it down so it doesn't have as much of a hard line. I prefer the way the first one looks, so I add a little bit of that look to the rest of them. Although with this candy cane, I think I blend it out really quickly. But I go back in and add some more of the outline to it. And for the texture on the cookie, I'm doing a combination of like broader strokes to make large soft patches that I make sure to blend out with the cookie a little bit, and then a lot of little dots that aren't too dark. So they're usually what I do is the outline I want to be fairly dark, and then when my paintbrush starts running low on paint for the outline so it's not nearly as saturated, then I go in with the little dots so that the dots aren't too dark and too noticeable. And here I go with the candy cane, adding the outline like I was talking about. I go over it all a little bit more, just refining here and there what I want to be a little darker, where I want a little more of the cookie crumb texture. And in general, the cookie crumb texture is a little more noticeable on the darker sides. For this, I kind of made a mistake. I went in with the yellow ochre and I added some white to it because I thought that would make a nice lighter coloration, but I did not like it very much. So what I do is I add it all over so that it doesn't take away from the other cookies. Like there's not like one that stands out weird because I only put it on one of them. So I add it all over, and then I add water to it. That's what I'm doing here, to lift it up with a paper towel. And that gets rid of pretty much everything that I didn't like about it. It was just a little too opaque. I know I'm using gouache. It was what I had with me at the time. I think watercolor would have worked just as well for this. For the sprinkles, now I'm using a different color. It doesn't really matter what green or blue or yellow or whatever you use. I'm just using, I think it's a primary green. Oh no, it's the permanent green middle. But I just take the very, very tip of my brush and I go in with some fairly saturated sprinkles, and as my brush runs out of pigment on it, then I start to tap them a little bit harder and a little bit more sporadic, so that there's patches that look kind of like melted sprinkles. And then when my brush gets really low, I start pressing very hard so I get a lot of that faded texture where it looks like the sprinkles have just melted all over. And to make this look really good, like actual cookies, I made sure that there was patches on the cookie, that the sprinkles were darker in kind of an area, because if you've ever made sugar cookies before, you know that when you first shake the sprinkles onto them, it makes like patches of darker spots. And then I also thought it would be really fun to add some sprinkles to the surface around it. And I honestly think that this would make an incredibly cute pattern for, I don't know, like a coffee mug. My mom said she thought that would be pretty, or a Christmas blanket or something like that. I don't know. Wrapping paper would make really cute wrapping paper. If I did a piece that was a bunch of these cookies in a bigger pattern so that you could see more of it, so because it's a little bit small. Not very many cookies on there. But I do the same thing with various different colors, and to get like a real traditional nostalgic sugar cookie look, I make sure and overlap a lot of the colors. So you'll see where the green is, I put some green sprinkles onto the candy cane where the shaker would have gotten some there. And I made sure to make one of the trees have like all the colors, because there's always someone that wants to put every color on one cookie, and it kind of ends up looking brownish most of the time. But got to go the traditional route. In the star, you can see in the green area, I've put some red sprinkles, a couple green sprinkles on the bell where the tree would have overlapped. And then I go in with just really, really watered down black, and I put a very, very faint drop shadow. I didn't want anything harsh. So I'm not worried about this color blending too much with the sprinkles on it, because that'll just give it a little more dimension. And I keep this to the shadow side, obviously, of the cookies, and I think it adds a really nice touch. Anywhere that the shadows are a little too harsh, I just blend it out a little bit with water. And as a final touch, I go in with pure white and very tiny dots to make the sparkles of sugar cookies, like when they light hits them, they've got these little glittery spots, and they're so pretty and so cute, but you don't want to go overboard with that. Do not go overboard with the highlights. Just a little bit goes a long ways, and here I am peeling the tape. It's so satisfying, even though the tape was peeling up like the entire time I was working on this. So washi tape with these, with watercolor paper that buckles at all, will just peel up on the sides. It kept the border really nicely, but it would peel up from the surface, so my paper was still buckling. If it's watercolor paper that's really nice and doesn't buckle much, you don't really have that issue. But I think that these turned out so adorable. I was really happy with it. Like I said, this was my first time ever doing this kind of artwork. I don't normally paint food at all. You know, don't get too used to it. I like to do the fantasy art mostly. But like I said, I was feeling nostalgic. And so I erased the pencil lines, signed my name here, and that about wraps it up for this. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. Here's a final look at the artwork and some of the paints and my palette. These sugar cookies were so much fun, and I hope you really enjoyed the tutorial. If you did, I'm such a small creator, it would be really nice if you could leave it a like, and if you like this kind of stuff, subscribe. I do a lot of fantasy art, both traditional and digital, and also a little bit of self-promo. I have a Patreon. I'm Jasmine Zelmer on my Patreon, and I do things like send out mini prints, and I'll do custom tutorials if you guys ask, and things like that. I do photo reference packs as a new thing, and I want to upgrade the tiers as I get more subscribers, so that as I can start putting out tiers that include stickers and enamel pins and that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, check it out, Jasmine Zelmer on Patreon. But otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy my videos, and thanks for stopping by.